This is Chapter 3, Section 3, Writing Functions, Lesson 3, Video 4. So the example says, identify the independent and dependent variables, write an equation and function notation for each situation. Before we get to what function notation is, we're first going to work on determining both the basic equation as well as what is the independent and dependent variables. So A says a lawyer fee is $200 per hour for her service. Therefore, based on the way that it is explained, the independent variable would be the time, and the dependent variable would be the cost. The way that I know this is the case is because it's talking about $200 per hour. That tells you that for every hour of service, you're going to have to pay her $200. So if you need to be with her, or you need to have her as a lawyer for 2 hours, you're going to pay $400. Given this information, it kind of is pretty easy to determine that the amount you're going to pay depends on how long you're going to need her service. So because of the ability to say that sentence, I can determine that independent variable is time and dependent is cost. The next phase is to write the basic equation, remembering that independent is x and dependent is y. We could say that y is equal to 200x because it's per hour. Per hour pretty much means multiplication. So for every hour, you're going to spend $200. You're not going to add it together, so 4 hours is $800. The next phase is the function notation. What you need to understand about function notation is that it is a way of distinguishing between a basic equation of y equals and one that is specifically a function, meaning that it passes the vertical line test in graphing form, and also that the x will never repeat. So none of your independent variables will repeat. Given that, the way that you write it is pretty simple. It's f of x, and again that is read f of x. That means that it's a function written in terms of x. You can also remember that f of x is equal to y. Therefore, anytime that you see a y, you can replace it with f of x. Given that, we can take our current equation and rewrite it as f of x is equal to 200x. It didn't take a whole lot of effort for me to write it as a function, but I did start by writing the basic equation first. So for the second one, the admission fee to a local carnival is $8. Each ride costs $1.50. Now the key to this is that you have two separate fees. So when you're trying to figure out the independent from the dependent variable, you've got to think about more than just the basics of a time and a cost type situation. Now, when we're talking about an admissions fee, it's pretty easy to understand that that's a one-time fee. They're not going to pay you an admissions fee every single time you try to go on another ride. Therefore, it's the ride that's going to really affect the cost in the end. So our independent variable in this case is the number of rides you're going to go on. And then the dependent is actually going to be cost still. So how much is it going to cost you? Now, when writing the equation, you do need to make sure you include that initial fee, because you start with it. So you have the $8, and then you're going to add on $1.50 per ride. Now again, to rewrite this into set notation, all you need to do is take away the f of x and put a y in its place. Sorry, take away the y and put an f of x in its place. Also, it should always go variable to constant, so it would be 1.5x plus 8. And that would be the end of that example. Again, I do apologize when I said that. Please remember that it is y becomes f of x, not f of x becomes y. So for your U-tries, identify the independent and dependent variables, write an equation in function notation for each situation. A says Stephen buys lettuce that costs $1.69 per pound, and B is an amusement park charges a $6 parking fee plus $29.99 per person. Again, hopefully by the last examples you will be able to answer these two questions. If not, please make sure you have it set up so that you can answer or ask questions in class.